And welcome, everyone. And thank you so much for tuning in today, either real time or later time, to On Fire for Life with Simple Hayes. I love to say it each and every week. We're coming off of an energy that, like Howard Thurman would say, stop asking what the world needs and ask yourself what makes you come alive, because that's what the world needs, is more and more people to be vibrant, to be alive, to be in this energy field of consciousness. I want to thank our sponsors, the Institute for Leadership and Lifelong Learning, aka ILLI, as well as Global Peace Workers. We want to thank them for their various contributions. Today, I am very thrilled to have an amazing author, Penelope Holt. And I want you to give her a warm welcome, because she is a beautiful spirit and a bright light. And let us bring her in now from Western New York. We're having the cold wave, and it seems to be like permanent. And you're having the warmer wave. So together, maybe right here in this line, we'll meet somewhere temperature wise. I'll lean this way and you lean this way. Oh, welcome to our show. Thank you so much for being here and your bright light. We were actually sharing, for all of your benefit. We were sharing before the show that Penelope and I have the same publicist, and we just think she's like one of the greatest people that we've ever met on the planet. Penelope, I know you have a rich history and you've done all kind of things, and you've originated in London. Weren't you in London originally?
Well, north of. I mean, England is tiny. Fits into California 11 times, and Texas 20, I think. So it's
Okay.
So I grew up about 200 miles north of London, which for English terms is far, but not really.
Oh, simply around the corner. I learned that one quickly.
And a jump. Yeah.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. So tell us a little bit about your journey, whatever you want to share.
I know that you're interested in shamanism and practice it, and I've always been fascinated by shamanism and the belief that you change the world, you change yourself and what other people's by reality by influencing what they believe.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
you do that. And actually, a good therapist will. I heard this story. I think it was on a Diane Sawyer documentary of a young American Indian First Nations girl in a reservation, lots of drinking, alcohol problems. I think lost both of her parents in a drunk driving accident, and she was devastated. She was shut down. She was almost comatose, and they sent her to various psychologists. And finally, the tribe's medicine woman said to her, "I'm going to give you a new name." And she said, "Your new name is she who bends but never breaks."
Oh, wow.
And the girl, once she got that idea that she was resilient and that she could bend with the, tragedies, she began to. And so it's many years since I heard that story, but it just stuck with me that what we say to each other really changes reality. And of course, I think storytelling, I've done it in a corporate setting for brands, not as much fun, but certainly in writing fiction, telling stories you kind of feel like you're, weaving a spell a little bit. So especially with this book, The Angel Scroll, that I just finished, it's very much about inviting people to believe in miracles.
Sure. And we certainly can use some more of that. We can never hear about, too many miracles. But when you were saying that, full disclosure, because a lot of our listening audience has been with me and Andrea for, 15, well, it's almost 20 now on the podcast. It's had different names, but we're the same people. I mean, even my goddaughter is tuning in, which she is right now. So hello, Miracle. You said the word miracle, and that's her name. So anyhow, that being said, my my oldest dog died unexpected on Saturday night. And
Oh,
so our family, we're in grief and, and all that. And we know, we're at a time in our own maturity and our life wisdom that we don't intellectualize, we don't do the metaphysical bypass. We've got to walk through our feelings and all that. But one of my dearest friends, we've been friends since we were 3 and 4 years old, and she knows and knew my dog Mystic. We went and spent time in the Carolinas with her. And so she was like, "How are you doing? I'm checking in," and all that. And so she said, and it's just exactly what you're saying. She said, my little grandniece had two dogs, and when she was 3, and both of them, they lost both of them. And she said, the little girl said, "Jack will be barking in my heart for the rest of my life," in referencing to one of the dogs. And I went, that is so perfect.
yeah.
Mystic will be barking in my heart for the rest of my life. So it's exactly what you're saying, this energy of healing. It's not about that it's 12 paragraphs long or necessarily that it's going to make a Nobel Peace Prize, but it's the right words at the right time that become transformative and just really shift you to a greater understanding and a place to hold your feelings. Did you know years ago, before you established your family and everything and moved to the States, that one day you would be an author and soon probably a playwright and everything else that lies ahead of you? Did you know that that was in store for your life?
Yeah, I think so. I've told this story a few times because it's one of those, your mom will tell you cute stories about when you were a kid that you don't remember. And she used to say, "Oh, you could speak in paragraphs when you were 2 years old." She said people would just be agape. And I had an older cousin who used to say hockey hill. And she said at the ripe age of 2, you'd put your hand on your hip and say, "It's hospital." So I was very verbal. And my mother was a quiet lady, and she used to just like, "Oh, please stop talking." So words were always important to me, and that line from St. John, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word became flesh.
Yeah,
I just there's so much in spiritual writing that talks about sound and words. We speak things into existence, don't we? You were talking
yeah,
about sound,
yeah.
and we were talking about your bongos and vibrations. So I did know, I had a feeling when I was a child, and sometimes I think, did I imagine it? But I remember feeling that I was more in touch with reality as a child, that I saw things more clearly.
Mm,
And I think I have that distinct memory of seeing people and seeing situations clearly. And of course, you're being told by adults, you're not seeing what you're seeing, and you
sure.
sort of learn to, you learn to sort of shift your perception to fit in. But I always wanted to be a writer. I always wanted to be a storyteller. I used to love to read. In fact, the librarian would I'd exceed the limit on books for checking out, and she'd say, "No, Pen, you can only take 6." So I think it's one of those things that there have been times in my life where I've been in business and writing dry things and thinking I was a million miles away from my true love, which is writing fiction. But
Mm,
somehow, if you really, really want it and you're supposed to do it, you just wind up doing it, don't you?
yeah,
You just wind
you
up
do.
getting, and you look back on the journey and you just can see all the places that you got nudged into. You see that tapestry, how it all got woven together. And then you and I were also talking about, then I think part of the vocation is surrounding yourself with like-minded people, or people who are in tune with you, that can help you um, sort of be yourself and
Mhm.
step out and do what you want to do. And certainly Dia, our friend, she is a goddess by name and goddess by nature, right? um,
That's right. The one and only Dia Chandra Hunter. She's because
yeah,
of her. I mean, there's so many. There's no telling how many people are reached all over the world through the authors, through the filmmakers, through the people that she has endorsed or supported or helped. And she
yeah,
really comes from the spirit of giving. When you make mention of children, it is fascinating. And I was one of those children also, that I could see energy of people or not. and I could see things going on, and then I would tell the adults, and people would go, "Oh, you had the calling since you were 5." And I go, "Yeah, but I wasn't like Yogananda. I didn't go to my parents and say, 'Oh, I've had this calling.'" And they go, "What do we need to do to get you to the mystery school?" They'd go, "Please don't talk to people. Please
Yeah.
don't tell that kind of stuff to people. They'll think low of us. And we're a Southern Baptist community. And please, Temple, don't bring shame to our home." So it is interesting, that path of how so many of us start that way, and then we get covered up with these layers, some cement, some thin walls, and then we wind up, breaking them down. I guess I would attribute that to some of it is so we could work with people that are shut down, right? And because we know what it's like on both on both sides. When did you start stepping more into the pen, which is interesting in your name? When did you start stepping more into, what you know, and what's flowing through you, and you're brave enough to bring it about? What was there, a defining moment or some
You
kind of?
know, I think it was a slow, I think it was just a slow awakening. I had a friend who used to say, he used to say of himself, "I'm a truth-telling people pleaser," which is the worst bind to be in when you want to speak the truth, the truth, but you just don't quite have the courage to do it.
Mhm.
Um, and like you were saying that, people, the shame is, people don't do it in intention. I heard this beautiful definition of forgiveness the other week. It said, forgiveness is understanding that it could not have been any other way.
Yes.
And it just takes away that rumination, that pressure. If only this, woulda, coulda, shoulda, if they'd done that and I'd done that and I'd been further along and I'd been better at this and not worse at that. It just sort of takes that noise away. So, it's all part of your journey. But I think, just with Dia again, just encouragement. I mean, you don't need people to rave over you, but to just have people in your life saying, you should be doing this. This is your calling. We've all got a calling, right? We all, and I think it's hard to be thwarted and not doing the thing that you are supposed to do. What is it? Was it the Greeks had it? The daimon. The daimon is the sort of the energy and conscious energy inside you that it doesn't care about you. It doesn't care about your ego. It's just here to make sure that you do what you're supposed to do. And they say that if you fight your daimon, it's misery ensues.
Mhm.
So it sounds like you too, finally found people that said, "Hey, Temple, we see this in you. This is what you're supposed to be doing. Get out there and do it."
And it's forever unfolding.
Yeah.
I just really feel like the next layers of my life are still unfolding, new adventures and doing new things. I live in the awareness that my greatest work has yet to happen. And
Yes.
I don't, that's not tied into ego. It's I could be a painter, I could go serve not real hot dogs, but vegan hot dogs on an island. I have no idea, but I just want to remain open
Yes.
and meet life with that spring-minded possibility of what is in front of me, and what wants to present itself. I love that, because we're always changing, and I think that's sometimes where pain and discomfort comes, is we want to be in control or have something be a certain way or hold on to it, and life isn't really meant that way.
No.
you
And
know
life is, and I love the title of your show. I mean, just again, the power of words.
hmm
I love words. Words. There's nothing more that, I mean, it's hard to get a first draft down, but there's nothing more satisfying than polishing writing. It's like fine sanding a piece of furniture. It's just so soothing. So I'm very alert to the power of words, and to say to be on fire for life. I mean, it's just just saying it makes you. But we fall asleep, we become, and there was a great book I read years ago by an author called Judith Viorst, and she wrote Necessary Losses. And
mm
it's about how every stage of your, you give up childhood, every stage that you move through, you lose, you get, but you also gain if you're willing to not hold on to the loss, right?
mm.
And
Yes.
my mother-in-law, who's a Sicilian, bless her, she was in her 80s, and she'd say to me, "My time is now." Every decade of my life has been, she found the meat, she found the marrow in every decade of her life. And she was running AARP in Boca Raton, and when she was 90, and I'd ring her up and say, "What are you doing today, Nona?" She says, "I'm off to look after the old folks." So
I love that.
she just, she just had this perception of herself as being just on fire for life, you know. And it was a great example, because I kind of came from the dreary north of England, where it's industrial, it's hard, it's a hard life, and people kind of get beaten down, you know.
Sure.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's that is so fun. Yeah, I love that too when I'm around 80 and 90-year-olds, and to me that's getting younger all the time. But I love it when they'll make a reference to somebody and they'll go, "Oh yeah, those old people," and it's hysterical
Yeah.
because in that way too, as a culture, we're also changing.
Yeah.
We're changing, and age is taking on a different meaning. Well, one of the things that you and I are excited to talk about today, I was honored that Dia asked me to write an endorsement for your book, and good for you.
Thank
Way
you.
to go.
I'm so
It's so
excited.
beautiful.
Thank
And
you.
and it's titled The Angel Scroll.
Yes.
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 So, tell us a story? What, you're sitting at the beach one day and you go, "Oh, I'm gonna download a book now," or what?
Well,
How did,
I've done a lot of writing, you know, especially business writing and marketing and advertising. It's my job, right? It's my stock in trade. But
yes.
I really, the Angel Scroll is, you know, it's my magnum opus, in that it's all of the journeying and the spiritual searching that I've done. I really want, and the research and looking into different faith traditions and how they intersect, and fringe religious theory, like Jesus in India. Jesus went to India allegedly during those silent years before he began his ministry. So I really wanted to write a book that was sort of had a seeker like me,
Mm-hmm.
who I grew up, you know, I went to Catholic school and it served me very well. Then became interested in Buddhism, and just always that same looking for God, looking for something higher.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I've joked with that I didn't so much write it, the book, as excavate it, like a, you know, piece of marble that I just chipped away, and then there was this figure underneath. And it did, you know, I don't want to make it sound too mysterious, but I did sort of have this sense of waiting for I'd write a chapter and then I'd be like, okay, what's next?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really know where it was going. I didn't have an outline. I would just write it, and then I'd get a sense of where I should go next with it and how I should. And anything with angel in it. But the Angel Scroll, very quickly, the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered, thousands of pieces of parchment, you know, dating back centuries BC, were found in caves around the Dead Sea, kind of where the West Bank is now.
Mm-hmm.
And they were studied, and they were this amazing archaeological find. They revolutionized scholarly understanding of the early Christian and church and Judaism. Allegedly, another scroll called the Angel Scroll was found in the 90s on the Jordanian side, and it was
Wow.
reported in the Jerusalem Post. And you know, some serious people wrote it up. They said that they'd seen drawings of it, that there was there was a tour of heaven, and you know, a lot of angelic mysticism
Mm-hmm.
and some apocalyptic imagery, but no one ever really discovered it. There was hearsay, there was, you know, some evidence of it, and then finally they began to debunk it and say, you know, it's just not coming forward, we don't believe in it. Well, by that time I'd already got in my head that I wanted to use it to start to write a book. You know, as we came into the new millennium, it was very consequential, and I thought, wouldn't it be great if an ancient prophecy
Mm-hmm.
predicted a new gospel that was 3 paintings, was a triptych, instead of hearkening back to the Renaissance period, before the printing press, before people had Bibles. They learned the stories of Jesus and his church through iconography, sacred, you know, painting, and very connected to sacred geometry. So I thought, wouldn't it be great everybody's arguing over words and my version and your version. Wouldn't it be great if we had a triptych, 3 paintings that are miraculous, painted by 3 amateurs, so they're almost channeled. And when you put them together, they're going to be a vehicle of transformation for the new age, because we need it, because we're lost. And so, and then it was about, then it was about a scavenger hunt, finding the paintings, and then, you know, so it's a little like the Da Vinci Code, in that it's this quest to find these spiritual artifacts. So.
Well, books like that, the Da Vinci Code and the one that you're speaking of, the Angel Scroll, they do very well, because they do bring out, they awaken in others that mystical aspect of us, which is really natural and innate. But we get bombarded. We allow people to bombard us with their dated, old-timey, belief systems. But when you think about it, one time I read, I've read it several times in front of groups. It's called The Obituary for Common Sense. And the version that I was able to get many years ago, when we were just coming into the big computer age, it was even better. Now people have taken it and they've made it political, and they made it this and that. But it's still like, when to come out of the rain, don't spend more than you have, and just common sense. Yeah. And I look at that sometimes and I go, it's so fascinating to me that people claim to know Jesus and know God, but then they'll spend the rest of their lives creating fights, not liking people, not accepting family members, because they're different than they are. And it's like, that's just too foreign, for me to wrap my head around. And I'm with you. It's like words never help, or we wouldn't still be, it's just to each his own. If the God that you have is working for you, then let's just be grown up enough that we can let that be so. What are some of what's some of the feedback that you're getting from your book?
It's good. I mean, I think people want an invitation to explore the miraculous. We're sort of, I think new age endeavors of being this sort of poo-pooed by mainstream America. We have another friend, Mary, and I always say, who reads the Akashic Records, and I always say, Mary is such a grounded person. She's such a sensible person. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of what you need to be doing spiritual work. You need a very common sense person, mm-hmm. who's grounded, that you can trust to then take you into these other realms and consider these other possibilities. If you think that you've got some sort of a wobbly person there. Mm-hmm. So I hope that it, I think it's got some interesting theories about goddess worship and early Celtic Christianity and Jesus in India and the Essenes and consciousness. One of the themes I try to cover is how there's a new generation of scientists now that are actually proving spiritual reality. The consciousness is the foundation of it. And that's great, because you've got all of these brainy, mostly men, brainy people coming out and saying, oh no, consciousness is the fundamental reality, and everything is existing, things that people in the East have been saying for millennia. So that's gratifying, and there's a little bit of that in the book. So it's just Dorothy Parker said that the cure for boredom is curiosity, and there is no cure for curiosity. I've always been really curious, and all the things I've been curious about have wound up in this book. So I just hope it makes other people curious and open themselves up to thinking and talking about the things that you do, which are uplifting, enlightening. Mm-hmm. I mean, why not? If you've got the chance, if you can worry about your taxes or really sort of dream of a better world.
That's right.
I think you've got to be on a diet of, just like a food diet. I think we've got to be very careful about the ideas that we entertain and pursue, and the things that we talk about and think about. Because one
Absolutely.
thought leads to another, right? One thought leads to another, and if it's a bad thought, it's going to lead to more bad thoughts. And before you know where you are, you're going to be sitting at the table with your head in your hands. So,
Yeah. I mean, new thought and new age and alternative practices in medicine has been a threat to the
yes,
traditional greed-based product selling, commercialized industry for a long time. And yet, it's not going anywhere.
yeah,
And it's proven its own track record to work. And it does threaten people at times because it would mean letting go of a um, I'm open. I'm surprised that, let's see, how do I say this? There's times my belief system is very solid about certain things,
hmm,
but yet I really feel it became solid because I questioned it.
yes,
And I
yeah,
was willing to go out on a limb and go, well, I don't know. This sounds a little weird compared to what I've been told or what I heard, but let me go out on this limb. I know when shamanism first presented itself, I mean, I was sitting in Black Mountain at the Light Center, and it's this meditation room with all the colors of the chakra and all that. And this medicine woman, I didn't know I was in the room with anybody. I was just in there with my eyes closed. Perhaps she was already there. Perhaps she came in. Perhaps she UFO'd in. I don't know. But
hmm,
she said to me, she said, you will get involved with, levels of shamanic stuff. And every now and then I look something up. I mean, back then you went to the library.
yes,
You got, if
yeah,
anybody doesn't know, there used to be cassette tapes, and you did things like that. And I remember listening to a little bit, and I go, "Oh, this feels spooky." I don't really resonate with this. The energies of large, but what? And and yet it kept knocking on the door
yeah,
right time in the right way when I was ready to receive it. And I couldn't, imagine my life now
yeah,
without these kind of teachings. And that's what I see. Your book is a gateway that can knock on the door, even for people that hang on to these traditional ideas that, oh, we're born and then we, have a car and a house and then we die and then that's it. And then we either go up or down, depending on the real estate we believe in. It's
yeah,
just can't wrap my
yeah,
head around that. But
yeah,
anyway, I feel that your book is a gateway to opening up, like through a way that they don't expect it. And that's the richness of these types of novels or inquisitive uh, writings, is because you catch somebody off guard.
yeah. I hope so. I mean, it's a rollicking good story. There's romance in there. There's travel, but really, it is about that. If I'm going to spend my time, I'd really like to. It's a book that I would like to read. And it Claire's begins. She begins to have these visions because her husband dies suddenly at the age of 38, and I think all of us know that when you suffer that kind of amputation, it pushes you into an existential
Mm.
crisis. You're rocking along in your life and paying your bills, like you said, and you got your car and your dog and your kids, and it upends everything. And
Yes.
you get that opening then to go to sort of find out. Some people go to psychics at that point, and if they're lucky enough to go to a really good one and get proof of their
Hmm.
loved one continuing, which I have done, um,
Hmm.
it can put you in on a new trajectory. And as we as we move forward in life, it does become about subtraction. We do lose more and more family, friends, pets, health, beauty, youth, whatever.
Right.
And it's really important to not get stuck in the loss, but to find what is yet to be discovered, and yet what can bring you happiness and growth and new vitality. It you were reminding me when you were talking about medicine, again, like the power of stories. Where I grew up in the north, um, homeopathic medicine was everything. My grandparents only they did bread and butter
Right.
poultice. And
That's
my
right.
my mom used to tell me this story when she was a little girl, that she had, as a baby, infantile paralysis because she had diphtherias and pneumonias, and she had these successive bronchial illnesses, and she was in bed and her legs she withered. So my grandma would push her around in a stroller. She was 5 years old because she couldn't walk, or 4 years old. And an old lady in a market said to my grandmother, take that bairn home and tear up sheets, dip them in goose grease, and swaddle her legs in them, and she'll walk within. And sure enough, my gran went home. She got the goose grease. She slathered my mom, and and I said, and my mother says, and I walked. So I was telling this to a friend, and he said, do you know that they've just done research that there's particular chemicals in goose fat because of the diet they eat around lakes, that it actually can penetrate subcutaneously and restore the muscles, or bring blood or whatever to. And I just thought, people would say old wives' tales, but that they really understood these remedies, how powerful they were. And it stayed with me, and to this day I mostly do naturopathic medicine.
Me too. Me too.
I'm happy to see that
more.
more.
Doctor this many times in my life, and I'm always I'm not against doctors, and I support people that feel the need to go there, but to me it's a practice for a reason. I tend to go more with ancient knowledge, like Chinese acupuncture, chiropractic. I've been doing chiropractic since I'm a teenager. I just believe more so in that way because it's tried and true. And with our pets, we always do homeopathic, and with ourselves for sure. I mean, you're on a plane, you do arnica, it's just a common sense thing. And I can't say enough about the natural, because the beauty of it goes with you or it doesn't, and your body will wash it out if it doesn't need it. But if you get the right one, then you're set, whereas some of this other stuff is like well, I don't even know, because I don't take it. But I remember, because I've never really taken anything, I remember one time I was getting some work done on my lower teeth, and they gave me a prescription, and had the scroll on it. It's like, well, that looks scary. And I said, I don't take stuff, and I don't think I can take this. And, well, you might need it, maybe just take a half. It's like it knocked me. I didn't know anything for 2 or 3 days, because when you're not used to this kind of stuff, it's really hard on you.
Yeah, they say that Western medicine is absolutely fantastic if you have trauma. If you're in a car wreck and they need to set your legs, or infection, lots of. But the allopathic, no, that's allopathic. The naturopathic medicine. Many women have a closet full of shoes. I've got a pantry full of herbal teas, and my family will call me up. My nephews and these. What should I drink for this? Dandelion tea. What should I drink for that? For this, I've got a tea for everything. And I also think it's just the power of belief, because if I'll drink one of those teas, whatever ails me, and feel better, feel like it's doing me good.
I love that. Well, and you're coming from a history too of your mom and your lineage. I mean, that's really, really powerful, because you learned how significant it is. And what age did your mom live to be?
Well, she finally died of lung cancer, because unfortunately she had smoked on top of on top of having a lot of bronchial issues. She died in 2000. She was 72. She died in January. She wanted to see the millennium, and a doctor friend of mine said that so many people died in January of 2000 because they willed themselves to live. They wanted to come, they wanted to live into the new millennium.
Yeah.
that was, and then I read something else that it sounds sort of cute, but it's true if you think about it. So I always say to people, which people live the longest? And they'll give me, oh, the ones that exercise, or they do this, or they do that. And the truth is that the people who live the longest are the people who want to live the longest.
That's it. Mm-hmm.
It's they're on fire for life. You know, it's an entire, you know, motivation to be alive spiritually and physically, and to take care of yourself. And of course, not everyone can do that, but there is a lot. The spirit dies first. I think the spirit dies first. And that's why you have to keep yourself on fire for life, because as long as you're moving and breathing, there's something wonderful to live for. And, you know, you just see people start, especially after loss, they start to give up, and it's very understandable. So it's a real challenge to keep your spirits up. And that means, you know, being around like-minded people that buoy you too, and keep you going, help you to keep going.
Yeah, that's a real strong statement you just said. It's the will. You know, it's the will to be alive. I mean, there's a lot of not nice people that outlive the nice.
Mother used to say that. She used to say,
"There you go. They'll probably outlive the rest of us." But,
only the good die young, right? They used to say. My mom used to say, "Only the good die young."
Yeah, but they have this strong will, you know, to keep going and keep being. And there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. I mean, obviously, we feel better about ourselves if we apply self-care and we take care of our bodies so it, you know, likes us in return. But on the other hand, it is hard to, you know, you see people that have, you know, drank every day of their lives, and they're 90 something, and they smoke, and yeah, it's pretty fascinating. But back to the beautiful, you know, mystery. I'm just real excited about your book, The Angel's Scroll. When did it come out?
It came out at the very end of June, so it's been out about 2 weeks now.
Yeah, it's just out. Have you heard from any of your friends or family specifically? Has anybody contacted you and went, "Whoa, wow"? You know,
I've got one friend who's from Venezuela, and so English is her second language, and she's very expressive and animated anyway. But she just said, "I love this book," and it just, you know, people say, "Oh, it's nice." They try to be polite. They don't want to push, but she was just, "I love this book," and then she went into this long, you know, monologue about what she loved about it. And I said, "Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that." And I think there's some interest in turning it into a film, which would be great, because because I started out playwriting, I think very much in scenes, and I think it would be a terrific book. I mean, it's a tour around the world, so location and everything. But I was saying to somebody else, if you watch The Crown or a lot of the very opulent, lavish series that they do, so much of it is CGI now. I think all, you know, Buckingham Palace, obviously, they were not roaming around Buckingham Palace, but they managed to recreate, you know, Buckingham Palace, these fantastic backdrops. So, you know, hopefully the fact that it's the story is about taking a trip around the world in chasing after these paintings. Hopefully, it wouldn't blow up a budget, and someone could figure out how to do it. I'd love to see it. It would come alive, because you've got these supernatural paintings that have these supernatural effects, and there's vibration and there's sound around them, and you can do so much justice to that in with film, where you can describe it. You know, you can trigger the imagination in writing the narrative, but it would be great to sort of see it come alive on film. So
let's just see it. Let's just see that, and know it, and claim it. And with people on your team like Dia and Mary and Temple, let's hold that. You know, and it's, the timing is so perfect, because it's like there was Downton Abbey and The Crown, and now Bridgerton. Woo! You know, some say Bridgerton, some say Bridgerton, depending on where you live. But it's the time, and these series and films around these types of stories are doing very well.
I don't know if you read it. I think it came out in 2015. I sort of came to it late, but there's a book by Amor Towles called A Gentleman in Moscow
No.
or Moscow. And I walk and I listen to talking books, which is my guilty pleasure. And the gentleman who narrated it did a bang up job. In fact, I went looking for other books that he'd narrated just to hear him narrate. I love the book. And actually, Showtime just turned it into a limited series. I think there were 8 episodes. So you're right. We're kind of entering a new era of the kind of material that's getting done and is streamed, or it can be episodic or independent film. It's it's an important shift. But we do, Dia was saying that it would be nice to have some spiritual uplifting.
Yes.
Well,
that's part of Dia's strong values, is because she served the movie industry for so long and is wanting to see more and more of the spirituality component coming into play. I know I love it too. You can only do so many boy gets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back, or shoot, bang them up. It's refreshing to look at things. But I love the elegance of those eras, or things that mock, Buckingham Palace and stuff like that. I always say it's because I was a queen in another life. But I'm drawn to that beautiful, those kind of things. But so I hold for you that we'll mark this day, July the 10th.
Oh, thank you. That would be great.
And say, don't you remember? We were talking about it, and we were talking about it almost 3:45. We were just planning and calling in and invoking that your book is going to be an amazing film. So,
that's a thought that you might think twice about daring to have for yourself. Like, am I worthy? Why me? No, there's plenty. Mm-hmm. But when you have, to have someone say it to you and just, plant it into your mind and say, yeah, it's okay for you to think that way. It's a wonderful thing. So thank you.
Yeah. I mean, why not aim high? I mean, you rarely hear people talking about you because you aim too high. Like I've always said, I'm aiming to live to be 150, because that shifts everything.
Yeah.
150, then 50 felt different.
Yes.
Then 50 felt with other people's belief systems. It's just as easy to say I'm going for 150 as it is to say, oh, I want to live longer, but I hope I don't have this wrong and this broke and this and that. Yeah. That's just that same old, average reality. Nobody's really going to talk about you if you don't make it. They might say it in your eulogy, they were aiming to live 150, but they only lived to be 125. But that's still good. Why not?
Like the people who live longest are the ones who want. I mean, it's got to be part of it, right? You've got to want to go forward with momentum and energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially for women, I think it takes a long time for women, especially of our, generation, to grow into yourself,
right,
and have the agency and the wisdom. And women have typically been the wise elders in cultures, and I'd like to see that come back into Western culture. That reverence and respect. I think they have it in the East, in India and China. You get to the point where you're like, holy cow, I'm at the top of my game. I want to go on for another 75 years with this mojo. I can really get some stuff done.
Absolutely.
When you're young, and I think, if you're married or you have children, you're always focused. That's what women do. Like it's eros, it's connection, making sure everyone's okay and they're not falling out and your mother-in-law's happy, and you sort of live outside it in, and then you get to the stage where you start to live inside out, and you just, that calling comes, and life just, it's not that life's not fulfilling while you're going through those stages, but I don't know, something wise kicks in, purpose kicks in, and you really start to see for yourself what the calling is, and you really want to go after it. that I think that's what you're talking about, and it's
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a very strong point. Well, we live to a place that in this expanded awareness that we don't take on things that don't matter anymore.
no,
You know,
no,
you're not willing to entertain things that just, aren't that big of a thing.
yes,
You focus on what the legacy is, what you're bringing, how kids are, the family, and it's a much bigger imprint
it's
than
rich. Yeah.
right. It has a maturity about it, and yet at the same time, I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm still growing up. I'm
Oh,
learning
the real growth.
time. I'm learning how to look at things different. I'm learning how to walk through
Yeah.
certain things in life different, and doing most of it out loud. You
Yeah.
know,
I love that. It's almost as though you crack the code, and it's not that you know everything, it's that you learn to, what's the word? Understand it. You learn what you're supposed to be doing and how you're supposed to be figuring it out, right?
yeah,
You're
well
not
said.
running down blind out. You're sort of, how to think about things and navigate. Every day is different. We're always growing. We're always changing. I don't know, especially when it comes to spiritual matters. I fall short of say I don't know about you. I only know about my path. I know that I don't know, and that's why I'm open to anything. I'm open to angels and shamanism. Why not? When I was having my son, I thought, holy cow! My mother used to ring me and she'd say, "What are you doing?" I'd say, "I'm working on a kidney." Um, the fact that the body is so intelligent that it creates life, while you're walking around and doing your grocery shopping, it's forming this human being with a brain and I always thought, if my unconscious is capable of that level of creation,
Mm,
really, are there any limits? When
right.
people say, "Oh, people are not really psychic; they can't really be telepathic. They can't have this power or that power or this extra sensory perception or that extra." And I think, I don't know. Your average woman knows how to cook a baby pretty good, so
Yeah.
I mean, no, really, there's that level of intelligence in your body, sub below the level of consciousness working. So, I always look back on that, and I think it's crazy to think that we are not incredible creative forces in this world.
Oh, that's a beautiful point, and it is fascinating, right? We can lean into that kind of stuff, but telepathy, third eye awareness, those things are very so common in so many places.
Yeah,
They're just secondary to people's nature.
yeah,
Or I was just thinking about you, or I had this thought, you're in trouble or something's bothering you. It's like, yeah, gosh, I'm so glad it's so there. And
yes,
what we say to those people, what Penelope and Temple are saying to those people today, before you discount something, when you're not educated about it, when you have no clue what you're talking about, you
yeah,
know, do some research. I mean, you don't have to go to the library now. You can just Google or Safari or internet or whatever. You can see viable research and stories where it's proven time and time again. I don't think it still airs. I don't even recall, there's so many shows that are live streamed now. We have thousands of channels, but for a while there was a show where it was fascinating, and you can tell we're live and we're not on a script because it's like, oh, now that I put that out there, I don't remember the name, but what it was current time children that
hmm,
were having memories of who they were in a former life.
yeah,
And they were taking their film crew to all over the United States, and they would research and follow up. And these children knew things that nobody else would know, and had an awareness and described exactly what they went through at the time. And it was
yeah.
absolutely fascinating. It's urging me now to go back and find that again. But it was fascinating. and it was on mainstream. It wasn't on like the top three, but whatever. It was
Yeah.
on one of the main channels, that we have on Roku. So we do know there's so much more to the mystical and the magical. And my knowing for you is that your book, The Angel Scroll, will light a fire, get
Oh,
people to be on fire, that will have a heart opening. And I just hold for you, Penelope, just much, much success. I'm so glad we've had the opportunity to visit and to share. And absolutely, what a blessing you are.
likewise, it was relaxed and nice. It was a really nice. You forget, don't you? You think you're just having a chat, and you forget that you're sort of broadcasting to the world. But I really enjoyed it, Temple. Thank you, and thank you for the encouragement, and thank you for doing what you do. And I love the title of your show.
Oh, thank you so much. We're so blessed to have you, everyone. If you're listening at another time, please leave comments for Penelope and go on Amazon or go to her website, Penelope Holt. It's in the comments. And go ahead and let's get this book to move. And we're so grateful for all of you tuning in, and what a blessing that you are.